rockin.
Boost! Fire!
This has happened before.
Advisor.
Welcome to my first summer special of 2024. Like a rolling stone gathering plenty of moss, Geokinetics gained a massive lead. Thank you all for resolving my indecision. As the prefix implies, geokinetics are those who conjure and move earth matter, whether it be dirt, bedrock, or even portions of the world itself, or even something as measly as sand. And in rare cases, they can wield lava and forge their own crystals as well. Now, even though geokinetics are meant to have extraordinary strength in forging and relocating large loads, including mountains, and often intimidate their many opponents, there are occasions in which they're just gentle giants despite their hard, barren exterior. Of course, they often rely on physicality, brute strength, and performing such dirty jobs, and they're known as the most indestructible of all elementals. And summer involving sand especially is just perfect for them, while also capable on enduring intense heat. They can uncover their potential with minimal effort, so let's check out my own top 10 video game geokinetics. Let's get rocking!
It's clobbering time.
Hitting this top 10 by a hair is the marvelous rock monster Benjamin Grimm from the Fantastic Four. He and his body are terrakinetically based, and he does have some capabilities of the earth-wielding archetype, much like Spike the Cactus for Chloros, so it counts here. Ben might be considered as a basic example of a geokinetic. Not only is he a rock humanoid, but I'm sure he can cause earthquakes for damage and stunning, as well as regenerate himself while conjuring another rock formation on himself. One time he lost a rock while fighting the immortal Hulk, with a cast for healing, so it's possible, as he can change from his purple form to his rock form at will. And he too can just be a living, breathing boulder rolling over the competition. Axel from Twisted Metal would take the top spot, but I just found the Gentle Giant to be more inspirational. Hell, have we ever considered their insides as well? Ever since the mid-2000s with the 2 live-action films, he and the team had been my favorite members of the Marvel Universe. And I always sympathized with his rocky transformation, even wishing for him to live happily with Alicia. He really does have a crystallized heart beneath those tough layers. While I hadn't encountered a geokinetic as early as Draken, Bubble Bobble, Actraiser, or Shadowgate, the Fantastic Four went into full orbit in the 90s. Thus, this made the Thing to be the earliest encounter. And the fact that it's made by Marvel Comics, it might as well certainly be the pioneer as much as Iceman. The grizzly and the werebear combined both barely qualified to be geomancers. The first version of the ungulate was introduced in round 3 at the underground, where the centurion must be extremely cautious as many frequent pitfalls and collapsing crevices within a rock basin. Like all transformations, the centurion collects 3 spirit balls and morphs into the bulky bear. Geomancy and ungulate seem to have a lot in common, as this bulky beast has immense strength, especially being indestructible curled up in a ball while jumping. Be mindful of your eroding surroundings, though, as it may work too well. Unlike many geokinetics, this monster is capable of petrifying enemies by simply exhaling, as well as breaking through them like miniature boulders. While unfortunately it's not the main transformations in its remake, it still functions the same way as its predecessor, utilizing stone breath and incredible durability and endurance. However, it's capable a bit more with its mighty maul, running over enemies, and even using nerve gas. The bear's not entirely one of my favorites. Kudos goes to the shocking were-dragon. Nevertheless, since the werebear's unique with its petrifying breath, along with common features shared with many geokinetics like brute reckless strength, or sometimes being an ungulate, and being in a carnivorous setting, it was just enough to do the job despite its rarity. We can't possibly gloss over the classic thwomps from the Mario series. These animated moving slabs of spiked granite has been one of the most prominent enemies and obstacles ever conceived. Just like with my favorites, the Boos and Dry Bones, they've made their polished debut in Super Mario Bros. 3. And dare I say that it and Super Mario World have the best selections of enemies around. Anyway, the thwomps make their mark as they attempt to squash Mario in many castles. And while they started out as heavy, piercing blocks descending from ceilings, they soon move in multiple directions, including ascending and even diagonally, as if defying gravity with their megaton hides. The thwomps are very much self-explanatory, and they often are noticeable with their angry faces as they move, probably representing their territorial nature as they tend to squash intruders. They're often invincible unless you have a special power-up handy like the hammer suit, a star, or even a spin jump at times. They can also have their own subspecies, the thwimps, which are baby versions that hop around in corridors. That's cute and all, though I don't like their cerulean counterparts much. And they were soon replaced by their womp counterparts. At least they maintained their status in a variety of ways in later titles. They may be as bland as limestone and basic in using geokinesis like Ben on account of their structure, shaking the ground and squashing victims with gravitational force, whether tiny or ginormous. But that doesn't mean they should be thrown away in glass houses. Ever since I first saw this move in the original Super Smash Bros. When I was a tween, I just had to include Stone Kirby over sand. Like the majority of transformations, this debuted in Kirby's Adventure, and went through many variations ever since. Stone Kirby became iconic as after eating a rock creature, he wears a hat consisting of horns and small rocks, and simply just pounds onto his enemies like a gravity-defying weapon. In fact, it's often indestructible if Kirby should stay petrified, even against some major attacks like Marx's devastating black hole, though it's been toned down to make it less cheap. It seems to be a lot more reliable than the aforementioned Spar Kirby, to be honest. Heck, Kirby has even gained a move named Stoned Uppercut to make his copy ability more offensive than just an earthly shield. It may seem tough as nails, but it can also be a detriment if you happen to slide down slopes, or not expect any pits below. And another cool factor is that it can come in different designs, since my favorite Kirby Superstar and Ultra, even a nod to the Thwomps and Mario. Even combining with other elements and crystal shards, much as his other elemental abilities. It's no wonder Stone Kirby was one of the signature moves chosen for Smash, and it seems a lot more versatile than Spar Kirby. Just watch where you use it, and you just be a hapless sinking stone and meet your demise. It may be helpful, but just like being Mortal Kombat champion, you are far from invincible. Out of all the Earth-based bots in the Mega Man series, Tunnel Rhino was the ideal choice. First off, it's a mechanical rhino that can actually dig and drill through tunnels, and is a master miner. And rhinos are bitchin' as one of my all-time favorite animals. And if you've seen my first countdown, you would know that. It's a versatile geokinetic possessing many drill rigs on his armored body and wheels to help it get around. It's not necessarily paraplegic, mind you, but its adaptability and its colorful ungulate design also made it stand out from the crowd. Heck, it has not just a rhino attire, but according to the Japanese booklet, it said it's based on the Maasai tribe in Kenya. Flame Mammoth might be considered on account of his earthquake, but it's mainly just pyrokinesis. And unlike it, Tunnel Rhino's an expert drilling through tunnels and constructing his own basin in an energen crystal mine. They don't call him the subterranean barbarian for nothing, as he constantly charges towards X while also launching his weaponry like missiles. Miners do work with earth and dirt after all. It operates in a rock quarry, and being as its specialty, I'm sure it counts. And it's been created even before we had all those awesome rhino Pokemon. It might be John Henry's own pet rhino. Its design concept, simplicity, geo-manipulating skills, and flexibility just makes it barely qualify for the top 5 here. The Warp Stone from the underrated Star Fox adventures was just one of the instant contenders as quick as a landslide. We often do see scary moving rock formations, but none of them seem to be as lovable nor entertaining as he is. Whether it be Fox's expeditions or those pertaining in Dinosaur Planet, this Scottish talking golem doesn't deserve to be left alone. His rambunctious personality can rub off on you, even though hardly anyone brings him gifts nor visited him for eons. And the fact he literally stays in one place, always exposed to the elements. Poor guy, I feel kind of bad for him. Once Fox is able to access him with the Wounded Queen's permission, removes a bomb spore, and buys him rock candy, he convinces him to help out at repairing the planet. He grants him to warp to different areas, most notably the Ice Mountain, in order to rescue Tricky, or most commonly the Krazoa Palace, where Fox releases the spirits after being possessed. Heck, despite his limited mobility, he has built his own secret cheat well. He would even give Fox periodic hints throughout his journeys, and his only setback is he can't warp dinosaurs to wherever he goes. It's possible he helped architect the limestone formations around the hollow as they've similar textures to him, despite crafting his own well. And despite being an anthro golem and moving matter simply by morphing, he sort of counts here. He doesn't necessarily conjure much as a geokinetic, other than building his own secretive well, and functions as a warper. But despite his limitations, I often adore this Gentile giant. Fox just couldn't complete his missions without him, and Thorntail Hollow as the main forest hub was indeed one of the reasons I liked it too. With John Silk's hilarious portrayal, his likable character, his usefulness, and my sympathy for his loneliness, the Warp Stone just can't be ignored. It's been a long time since little Samson made the cut, so how about we display the heroic hardened golem, Gam. He started out as a local thief as he stole a potion from KO's lab. And from that incident, not only did the professor turn into a weak little mouse, but that same charm reformed the stealer into a powerhouse. He's the most resistant of the quartet, sturdy as a mountain, providing the least knockback and the least damage from enemy attacks, unless you consider bosses, which make heavy blows. Gam is actually the slowest and heaviest of the batch, as reaching platforms isn't his strong point, although he does make up for it by the only hero being able to endure spikes, and even spread out his elongating arm, which is more powerful than any of the hero's moves. Not to mention, he has the highest life meter of them all, and his potent arm can reach a decent length and outstretch in multiple directions, including diagonally, rivaling Samus and Simon Belmont. Aside from Kakira the Dragon, Gam has become one of my favorites of the Lickle heroes for those aforementioned reasons. And it's no wonder players often use him as defensive and offensive shields in many boss fights. Gam has become an instant favorite, and while its geokinesis is basic, it's still far from shallow and just as underestimated. Just as mighty and as iconic as the Himalayas, Titan from the Final Fantasy juggernaut was plain irresistible. Ever since I was 4 years old, I had a perception as clashing as his own species. This colossal eidolon is certainly no force to be reckoned with, as his massive stature and immense strength is capable of literally ripping Gaia's maw apart. His intimidating prowess can rival even Leviathans. Just like the fierce Ifrit, Titan has debuted in Final Fantasy III, where summoners can use him for wiping out waves of enemies or creating dents onto bosses. He can be an unstoppable wrecking ball if spanned by multiple summoners on the same group. But the most impactful appearance for me was my favorite installment. I know, what a lousy coincidence. After Cecil and Kain destroyed their first boss, the Mist Dragon, the lone child survivor Iridia becomes so enraged that she summoned the Titan sporadically, causing both the Valley of Mist and the Damsian Desert be torn apart, and since then created a force field between them, while also splitting Kain from Cecil and rendering Iridia unconscious from overexertion and major damage. When I first encountered him when I was 4, he gave me nightmares with his scary size and malicious might. Hell, I used to think the Sandmen were his own henchmen. But it wasn't till my 20s when I at last had a change of heart, as Titan functioned as a protective bodyguard to the grown Iridia, as she attained him from the Feymark. He still functions as the non-elemental terra-tearing beast that can nearly match the more direct Earthquake. In the interlude, it's attained by the Maenad imposter from a complex tunneler. And just like the whole gang, it was sheer hell dealing with his ferocity in the after years. For hell's sakes, you can't escape his merciless muscle until Porum uses the float spell. And it's a scripted fight! In 9, Aiko attains him, although he's renamed as Fenrir for some odd reason. But he was more vital in Dissidia, as his summon triples the user's bravery after taking hit point damage. Now that is vital and vengeful. Titan's ginormous and terrifying presence and groundbreaking skills can make anyone cower in fear. His wrath-incontinent crunching abilities can even rival the collapsing world of balance from the trio god statues. He was definitely a conflicting choice, but he's far from basic like the Blue Planet's core, hence taking the bronze medal. No wonder the Titans themselves are greater than the gods, and Titan from Final Fantasy's literally no exception. And neither is the next Titan contender. The Master of the Titans awakens in second place on my all-time favorite Geokinetics. Everyone and their grandfather would rather choose Groudon, but he never struck my interest much, surprisingly, since I'm into dinosaurs, unlike the other Gen 3 mascots. It just seems like stale burnt cookies. Instead, the majestic Master of the Titans took its dormant place. Regigigas, or as Logan calls him Reggie Kickass, is the leader of all the legendary Regi Titans. Unlike each member that embodies a certain element, it seems to possess them all in one Pokemon, as considering to be a normal type, a wild card, and one of the ginormous and strongest physical walls on the planet. First off, I just love its elaborate design. Being covered in gold and having massive mecha structure, with its feet and shoulders glowing with natural moss, and its many gems lighting up like a Christmas tree. Each gem is said to represent the trio of Regi-Titans, maybe updated since it has a quintet now. It might as well be just those robots that were made in ancient past, like the menacing machines in Breath of the Wild. Second, its abilities are beyond words, as it's known to crush any type of matter into sand within minutes, especially thanks to its ability Crush Grip. It has absolute fortitude, like several entries before it, with a high physical attack and defense stat. And even being one of the most adaptable, contrary to Groudon, in uninhabitable, frigid, and tepid climates. So too, it can craft himself and its Regi-Guardians out of clay, ice, and magma, and even stop a lava flow, saving millions of citizens. It's been worshipped and slept for centuries in the Snow Point Temple, and it can stall Groudon and his menace if it wants to. And it's known that Gigas and its guardians are true heroes, another change of heart from such an intimidating exterior. And as a normal type wildcard, it can learn a plethora of moves from many types. But combined with its astronomical strength and fortitude, its ground and rock types could even make the world collapse, and make sure that no opposing types are safe. But aside from its awesome design, concept, and abilities, one of the most interesting factors is it's rumored to tow entire continents, including their tectonic plates, with ropes. No other Pokemon has ever had that kind of astronomical strength. Once you have all 5 members of the Regi-Titans, including the 2 Galar newcomers, Regigigas can soon be awakened commonly at the Snow Point Temple, and I'm sure you'd be an absolute pro if you're able to have a full badass team. Despite all those amazing factors, there's always a setback to tone down his outrageous strength and prowess. One reason why it's in second place, which can be summed up in 2 words: slow start. It's a hindrance like with slacking, that they're delayed for about 5 turns in battle before execution, although it may be resolved by using Gastro Acid or a preemptive move to give it a vicious head start. I think Regigigas reminds me so much of those nightmarish Gigas giants in Final Fantasy VI. Holy hot damn! I bet they were the inspirations for that colossal continental mover as well, even with the floating continent. Originally, Excadrill was supposed to be the main Pokemon, since it's unstoppable and very fast fighting in a sandstorm, in conjunction with other ground and steel-type moves. But due to its enormous size, its outrageous strength which involves moving tectonic plates, and spanking shiny design, take a permanent rest, Groudon. The silver trophy belongs to Regi Kickass. Alright, we traversed through the deepest caverns and found 9 treasures manipulating the earth. But before we can get to the most dominant dirtbender, let's unearth the honorable and dishonorable mentions like diamonds in the rough. I'm sure you noticed I never mentioned Tremor on the list itself, like everyone does, including Block 4 and several of its rip-offs. Well, that's because I wasn't too fond of him in Special Forces nor MKX, as my worst games. While First Place actually made me have a change of heart despite being in another bad game. He certainly is a master geokinetic, and while he doesn't necessarily possess lava, no one can even wield and conjure the mysterious sands of time.
Duty is my highest calling.
Garrus from Mortal Kombat wields the Golden Trophy as the best geokinetic in Timeless Spades. Ever since he was first created by the former Titaness of Time Chronica, he has been unchallenged. He's the witness of many timelines and throughout vast events of history, and his skills mainly revolve around geokinesis, aside from Chrono, as they're empowered by the sands of time within the majestic hourglass, which is something that no other geokinetic in existence can possibly do, as he's an artificial construct created in a fixed point in time, meaning he can recover from just about any attack and is immortal. It's even rumored that his extensive experience and power can rival both gods and elder gods, and is one of the most potent beings. Unlike any geomancer ever, his source of power is the sands of time. Aside from temporal manipulation, there are many things done by his own dirty work. If he's ever damaged, he can regenerate and heal himself bending the sand particles. Better than Ben. Hell, he can even conjure monstrous sandstorms if he wants to. He has more competence than Tremor as with the sand bending. He can also summon dirt and rocks onto the battlefield. And he too conjures and hardens his steel gauntlets and armor with time sands, especially turning himself into a sand cloud, making him impervious, or soften and harden sand structures and weapons. He can bend sand to create various weapons, including clubs, stone slabs to slam his enemies into, hammers, sand clones, sand spikes, stone spikes, bursts of sand energy, and especially sand portals catching his foes off guard. Even a sand castle! Garrus can surpass any existing Earth wielder and bender, although he doesn't always have a chip on his shoulder. After Raiden drowned him in the Sea of Blood, and Khan and Sindel defeated him, his existence was rebuilt by Liu Kang in his new era. Just like with Titan, I started to have a change of heart. While I usually disdain him working for Chronica as well as MK1. Garrus was one of its positives as he functioned as a servant to the Chosen One and guardian of the Hourglass, as Liu only wanted to defend Earth. Garrus isn't always blindly loyal, as he does make his own decisions, like hiding away Liu's Titan abilities to prevent overwhelming madness. And after he sacrificed his immortality, he enlisted Garrus as the new protector of his new era all around, even defending Liu's truth by showing past events through sand portals. And his prowess is maintained well here. Side note, with his extraordinary prowess that can rival Orin's, it's possible he can be an anagram for Rages or even Gears. Also, I strongly believe he had the inspiration of Dhalsim from Street Fighter. Liu and Garrus' relationship has certainly transcended beyond time. If the DLC plot does come around, I hope Garrus would preserve Liu's existence when a system crash should occur. With all the mystification, he can certainly knock Tremor out of the park, and shatter him into millions of pieces countless times. But most of all, despite his almighty geokinesis, strength, and unsurmountable abilities, despite his rough, jagged exterior, and despite possessing endless knowledge of history, and just like a crystal kinetic, Garrus has shown me that even the most powerful can also wield a heart of gold. I'm the Ikron Rider, and Garrus will always be an out-reckoning force of earth-wielding that can always withstand the tests of time. He definitely deserves the honor and praise on being Liu Kang's friend and successor. Without Liu's positive influence, all of this and his reality preservation will ever be possible.